Okay.
Melissa,
So, yes.
Melissa, I'm kind of wondering, if the students can tell us what they think it means by quality relationship. What is a quality
Right. And
relationship?
I'm going to go into that on the next slide. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Let me just read this one last point. Thank you, Adrian. That's a great point. And what I say, having a support system in place gives us a greater sense of confidence in our abilities and will allow us to approach life more optimistically. And because our relationships are a source of quality social support, learning to care for and properly manage our relationships is an essential skill for bouncing back from adversity, aka resilience. So yeah, going back to what Ms. Adrian said, when you think about these points I just made, Adrian, go ahead and ask the question the way you asked. I like the way you asked it.
I was just wondering if the students could share with us what they thought it meant to have quality relationships. How would they define quality in a relationship with other people? What would those ingredients be? Those characteristics?
Being able to have a good time and genuinely spend, good time, and knowing you around somebody who actually cares about you and want to see you win or survive.
Okay. Someone who genuinely cares about you.
For me, I always seen like relationships with people as like a 50-50, like a two-way street. So like if I'm giving like a lot to you, then you should be doing it a lot in return. And this year especially, like I had to drop some friends because I realized it wasn't like that same like care or that same like commitment to like being my friend, because I feel like you always have to like, I don't know, give to the person or always be there for them and just be a listening ear when they need you.
Great. So mutually supportive. They're there for you. You're there for them when they need that support.
And I just want to chime in, Caitlin, you made a really great point about the idea of if you have relationships with people that are not giving you don't feel as though they reciprocate that, and they might bring to toxicity in your life or that they cause more stress in your life. It's also important to know when some people just are not the right fit. And that's an important thing to know as well, that it's okay to let go of some people that might not be bringing in healthy, good things into your life.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like a lot of people agree. I'm seeing in the chat, words like equal or equality in a relationship, or got to be able to reciprocate so that the relationship goes both ways.
Nice. Thank you, Adrian. That's a great point. Okay, I'm going to share some more. So this is a video, and I hope you can hear it. Everything connects well. It's actually from Canada, so they'll make some reference to Canada, but I thought it said a lot that was important. I couldn't find one from the United States that I liked. So here's a video I wanted to share.
Think of the last time you spent with your family or friends or people you care about. How did this make you feel? Being connected with people in your life helps you feel like you belong. It even helps reduce stress, boost your immune system, lowers blood pressure, and can lengthen your life. In fact, people with strong social support are usually happier, have better mental health, and feel a stronger sense of belonging in their community. Unfortunately, people who feel alone or isolated often have poor health. In fact, new research shows that not having social relationships can shorten our lives as much as smoking over 100 cigarettes per week. But the good news is that we can all do things to change this and to help ourselves and others feel more connected. Let's look at an example. This is Sammy. He just moved to a new city and does not have any family there. Because his new job takes up a lot of his time, he hasn't made any close friends yet. He comes home from work most days and spends time by himself watching TV or on his computer. He misses having his family around and is starting to feel a little more sad and tired each day. So what can Sammy do to get better connected with others? Sammy can start by getting out and exploring his new neighborhood. Maybe he can check out his community center to see what activities they have there. He can have lunch or go for a walk with his new coworkers. Sammy loves cycling, but doesn't know the area. He could visit a bike shop to see if there are neighborhood bike groups or look online for a bike group to join. Volunteering is another great way to get connected in your community. He could check out Volunteer Canada, the local newspaper, or local agencies to see where volunteer help is needed. Like most of us, there may be a time when Sammy needs a little more help. When moving to a new city, recovering from an illness, or going through a life change, calling someone you trust, or talking to a mental health professional can really help. If available, Sammy could get support from his Employee Assistance Program or call 211 to find out about programs and resources for support. The reality is that we all need people in our life during good times and during tough times. Make sure to reach out when you need help. Be open to accept help when it's offered and help others in return. So now, try to think about something you can do to make your connection stronger. Are there people in your life or groups that you could reach out to? How about others in your community who would benefit from more connections? Could you offer to make a meal for a new parent or caregiver, or maybe a neighbor who's having a tough time? Write all of your ideas down and pick one thing you can do this week to get more connected or help others get more connected. Even small things like holding the door for someone, taking out the garbage for your neighbor, bringing food to someone in need. These can all lead to big changes that can improve your connections, your physical health, and your mental health. For more info and resources on building social connections, check.
I stopped it there because they're going to talk about Canada. But it's interesting because the 211 works. That's also the connection in Philadelphia. If you find that you need help, if you need help, you can always feel free to reach out to anyone here. So starting with me, and I'll put you in connection with others who can help you deal with things that might be hindering your ability to make connections. The 211 talks about all kinds of city resources and different things going on. It's pretty amazing. There's so much going on in Philadelphia that we don't know about. And we've lived in the city, many of us, all our lives. And there's things going on and there's things available. So the 211 is something I would get in the habit of calling or looking up philly.gov online. And you'll be amazed at all of the resources out there to help you, especially as we go back into reopening. You want to know, like, what is out there, what's available. So 211 is really important. Any questions so far? Comments?
I'm wondering if the video got people thinking about what they could do this week to make connections. If there was one thing that they could do this week to help strengthen a connection or create a new connection for them. That was one of the things that I was thinking about. And then the other thing, Melissa, that I was thinking about, you referenced it, as we're getting back into, a different world, since, we've all been staying pretty close to home because of COVID. I was wondering what people were thinking about, how this last year has impacted their ability to make connections. What's that been like? And is there anything you're looking forward to as it relates to connections, as we're able to more safely get out and about? Naj?
Oh, she just signed on.
Hi.
Hey, Najee, thank you for coming back, for jumping on. So does everybody hear Ms. Adrian's question? Does anybody have any specific ideas on making connections just in general, or either specifically related to jumping back into life after lockdown?
I was even thinking about, as they got back into, is that it seems as though school is going to go back to an in-person mode in the fall. At least that's where it's leaning right now. And what are people thinking about that in terms of connections? I don't know if there's anything in the chat.
There's nothing yet. Let's be quiet for a second. Let's give them a chance to chew on it.
Yep.
Do activities that interact with people. Good. As many as you can. That's good, Yamina. So you can kind of chew on that a little bit. Think about that question, ways that you might jumpstart the connection, making connections. For those who haven't been making as many, begin to think about that. I'm going to share my screen.
I think it's totally understandable too that people are at a point where school sports, somebody just mentioned school sports or social media, those are ways to make connections. And I was just thinking, I'm not surprised that people may be struggling a little bit with thinking about how they might do that. We've kind of been out of practice in a lot of ways during the last year and a half. And people might not be so sure how they're going to do that moving forward.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Somebody's talking about
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
Someone's talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Dage, by the way. I would say a lot of people kind of struggle with that, like me, myself. A lot of people got like social anxiety, so they kind of isolate themselves a little bit. And
That's real. Thank you.
yeah.
We're actually going to have during, someone's going to be coming and talking about that. We're going to talk about social anxiety. We're also going to talk about loneliness. So those are two of the workshops that we have. One's tomorrow and one's next week. So we'll be talking more about that. Thank you, Dej. So I'm going to go through the video. Again, keep thinking about all of this because this is an ongoing theme for the whole week, making connections. We'll be talking about it. Anytime you have anything that you want to share about this this week or even beyond, feel free to bring it up. We can have a chat. Connection is a basic human need. Social connection improves physical health, like the video said, and psychological well-being. So what happens on the inside in your mind will eventually show up on the outside. So it's good for both mental and physical health. One study showed that lack of social connection is a greater detriment to health than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. And they talk about those things a lot and how they affect our health, but you don't hear as much about how making connections, not being a lack of connection, can impact our physical health. Also, social connection strengthens our immune system and helps us to recover from disease faster and may even lengthen our life. So even during this time, I think that's where during the pandemic, when our social connections were interrupted in a lot of ways, people suffered. People's immune system suffered. People got sick. Unfortunately, some people were not able to recover from those illnesses, whether it was COVID and other things. It wasn't only COVID that people were getting sick from during 2020. So my question to the group is, who do you feel connected to? When you think about this, you can share if you would like, you don't have to. Who do you feel connected to? Do you have at least one safe, caring, and supportive adult in your life? So if you want to put something in the chat, feel free. If you just want to think about it, that's fine too.
You're getting a lot of answers. People are talking about their mom, their best friend, their sister, their aunt,
Wonderful.
their dad. Multiple similar responses like that.
Wonderful.
Their boyfriend and other close friends, their grandmother.
Yeah. And not that, and we do recognize that the peer relationships are critical, so important to have someone your age or around your age that you connect to, at least one person that you feel close to, that you feel you can open up to, but also think about the adults in your life. Like I said before, the studies show that resilience is greater when you have at least one safe, caring, and supporting adult in your life. So think about the relationships that you have with adults as well. I'm gonna move this out the way because it's blocking my slide. Hold on a second. You have to wait for that other one to disappear. Okay, can everybody see the slide? It says people who feel more connected to others have lower rates of anxiety and depression. Making connections provides young people with the following benefits. You have a sense of I matter to someone, know that someone cares, experiencing the confidence that I have someone to go to, adding value to my self-esteem and self-image, and having a feeling of significance. Those are some of the benefits of making connections. Students affected by trauma and stress can typically be distrustful, suspicious, and very guarded. Openness and transparency create vulnerability, which heightens stress and can be a triggering situation. So people are saying, be vulnerable, be vulnerable, be more vulnerable. But if you've been exposed to trauma in any way or affected by trauma, whether it be directly or indirectly, that's hard because sometimes that can make a vulnerability a very scary place. So I'm going to wrap up my slide presentation and asking these two questions. What social connections do you have in place to help you deal with adversity? And think about your school. Does your school have a culture that encourages healthy interactions between students, staff, and other adults in the building? So I want you to think about that and write down an answer to each question. I'm going to stop sharing.
Miss, what was the question?
What social, I'll put them in the chat. And again, remember, these slides will be on the YouTube page too, so you can always go back and look at those as well. So question number one. Sorry. What social connections do you have in place to help you deal with adversity when it comes? And question number two. Thinking about your school, does your school have a culture that encourages healthy interactions between students, staff, and other adults in the building? And as we go back, one thing I'm excited about, I'm hopeful about, is that since we all went through this together, we can all start looking at solutions together in our schools, in our families, in our relationships. As Caitlin said earlier, they had to start looking at some of the relationships, some of the friendships, and evaluating and reevaluating if they were receiving what they needed in reciprocal relationships. So yeah, look and see begin to think about what social connections do you have in place to deal with adversity, and does your school have a culture that encourages healthy interactions between students, staff, and other adults in the building? So that's the end of my presentation, but the floor is open for any questions or comments. So I see people putting in the chat, they have their friends. No, their school does not have that kind of culture. Some of you may have not even had a chance to really get connected to your school because of the pandemic. So you might not even be aware of what the culture is right now. So be on the lookout for that. When you do get in person, start looking and seeing, does your school foster a culture that makes it easy to make connections with the staff, with each other, and with other people, other adults in the building?
Right, and people may be wondering whether or not when they come back to in-person learning in schools, how is it going to be the same? How is it going to be different than it may have been when they were there in the past?
So, like I said, this is our weekly resilience factor that we're going to talk about. This is the factor for this whole week. So we're going to be talking a lot about this. Lewis, I see where you put video games with your friends, give you a sense of freedom from any problem, and you believe that sports in school creates bonds with kids as a team. That's a connection. Good, good. So now you said close friends, and yes, she feels that her school does have that kind of culture.
And for people who aren't into school sports, but are into other kinds of school activities, I imagine that those activities and those groups of students kind of bond in similar ways to students who are part of a sports team.
Yes. And like I said last week, we are here to equip you, to give you tools to help build these areas in your life. So if you feel like right now your resilience factor of making connections is a little on the low side, again, please reach out. We have so many people in JFCS that can help you with this on a one-on-one or a small group basis. So if you feel like you wanted to address things like Dage brought up, social anxiety, coming back into a more social world following the pandemic, anything, overcoming trauma, how do you overcome some of the trauma that you've experienced in your life that's impacting your ability to make connections? We're here to help you with that. So thank you everyone for your participation. We're going to take a short break, and